Virtual Boy being the only type of VR I have ever experienced. And let me tell you, I think that's where VR peaked.
Too much energy.
Hooray! You're Silverbolt.
These upgrades come with a warranty.
Blah 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 blah. Beast Wars once and for all.
Cheetor, what have you done?
I am giving this episode no Energon.
What
Yeah.
are you, a Quintesson?
This is no Energon. Fuck it. I can't.
Sigma balls, Garry. No, not that.
Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Too Much Energon, episode 77. Thank you for joining us. This is the podcast where two 90s kids talk about Beast Wars shit and talk shit about Beast Wars. I am one of your hosts, NeoCal.
And I'm blue. Dabba dee, dabba die, dabba dee, dabba die, dabba dee, dabba die.
You have
Also,
to say the whole thing when addressing him too.
yeah. You have to say the correct number of dabba dees and dabba dies, and Maresley dotes and dozy dotes, and Mary and her little lambs, and all of that. Anyway, I'm may or may not be known as Christopher, or may or may not be known as the Siege.
The artist formerly known as Siege.
The artist formerly known as Grimsicle, which was my
there we go.
which was my username on a lot of things for many years. It was my Xbox gamer tag for well over a decade. I only changed it fairly recently. I'd had it so long, and normally it costs $10 to change your Xbox gamer tag, but I had never changed it, and apparently when they introduced the system to change your gamer tag, you get one freebie where they don't charge you $10.
Everybody gets one.
Everybody gets one. You get one freebie. And because I had that gamer tag for so long, I had never actually used that freebie. So last year when I decided to change it, I changed it to Lasercomb, by the way. When I decided to change it, it didn't cost me anything. I was like, oh, and I went into it expecting to pay, but then I'm like, oh, right. Like everyone, like each account like gets one like free change, and I never used mine.
Well, it wasn't a timed thing then.
Yeah, apparently not.
Oh, cool. It means I can change mine. I think mine's Cal Halla.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still have you as a friend on there, even though you haven't signed in, well, probably a decade.
I'll have you know that I sometimes get Game Pass now and again. Well, Game Pass for PC.
Yes. Well, we should try our hand at Halo Infinite sometime, since even without Game Pass, the multiplayer is free to play.
That's true.
Yeah.
I've never played any of the Halo games, but I'm sure I'll do just fine.
Probably. That was the only multiplayer shooter that I ever got into back in the day. I was never into Call of Duty. I went through a phase where I was into Battlefield a little bit.
Same.
Like it was literally one summer where I played. It was summer 2009 where they came out with the digital only Battlefield game, Battlefield 1943, which was like a remake of 1942, but it only had 3 maps on it.
Remember that? Wow, like
Yeah.
nobody played that one.
People still play it on the Xbox. I fired it up like maybe a year ago, and I'm like, the servers are still going and people are still playing it. I'm like, cool.
Weird.
But yeah, so it was summer 2009 when that came out, and the game was only like $10 back in the day. It was summer 2009, and I got super into playing that. Literally just
I
for
played
one
it too,
summer.
actually.
Yeah,
I
it
just
was
remember
good.
Wake Island.
Yeah, Wake Island. Yeah. That game was that that game was a lot of fun too because like people would like just fight each other like over who got to like take off in the planes, but like
To the
no
point
one.
where you would destroy it if
And
someone else took it.
yeah, and no one knew how to fucking fly the planes in that game properly because it was so hard. But
A tale as old as time.
I eventually like got pretty good at flying planes in that game. So I would always get really mad whenever like someone would like melee me or something like out of the way so they could steal a plane that I was trying to get into, and then they would take off and immediately crash. There was a Penny Arcade comic about that too.
Of course there is.
Uh,
Right. That's such an ongoing meme. And the only way you get better is by doing what that guy did. Like trying
Right.
to actually fly it. Yeah.
Right.
The best way to whenever I would play, I would like switch between controller and keyboard.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So whenever I would jump in like a plane, I would switch to controller.
How did you use a keyboard?
I think I had played
Did you play it on
just like a
PS3?
USB. Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
you could just use USB keyboards with it.
Right. Right. Oh, right. Yeah, yeah. I remember that now. You couldn't
I
with
know.
I don't think you can with the 360 version, but you can with the the PS3 version. 'Cause the
Yeah, I
PS3.
remember I played some games with a freaking mouse and keyboard.
I remember I had well, I had until they patched it out. I actually had Linux installed on my PS3 for a long time. So I would have it hooked up to my obviously hooked up to my TV, but I had a like wired like keyboard and mouse like coming out of the two USB ports on the front, and I would just use it as a computer on my TV
Hell
sometimes.
yeah. Now
Uh,
you're hacking it. It's the only way to play Army of Two.
um, but yeah. Anyway, so other than that game, I've always been into Halo multiplayer. Been into Halo multiplayer since the 2000s, and when the multiplayer for Halo Infinite came out, I first started playing, I was I was like, oh man, I'm doing so bad. Like just doing so terrible. I'm like getting like the other teams like wiping the floor with me. After playing for like like hour and a half maybe, it all started coming back to me, and I went from being the worst player on my team for the first like couple of hours to being literally the best player on both like for both teams because I always play Team Slayer,
Mhm.
to being literally the top player in the entire match.
It's all
Not-
coming back to me, baby.
Well, exactly, and I'm not trying to say like I like this like Uber Halo player or anything like that, but it's just like all of that skill from playing Halo multiplayer for like literal decades at this point. 'Cause that first one came out in 2001. Um, I think I first played the online multiplayer in Halo 2 in like 2006 or something.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah. But yeah, so all of that like all of that like just learned skill over the years just quickly started coming back to me. And it's kind of a testament to like the multiplayer of that game, like in a way like it feels modern, but it also still feels like Halo to the point that
Feels the same.
yeah, it feels modern,
I
but it
can
still
do that
feels
with
like Halo.
like any Battlefield or any Call of Duty game.
Right.
I can like COD Kid back straight back into it. They all have different like feels to it.
Yeah.
Like Call of Duty is very floaty and very jumpy and like twitchy, and it's a very different feel to Battlefield.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like Halo, like Halo is very
Halo's a lot more
environmental and
Uh, Halo's a lot more methodical too. Like it's not just about like
There's more
quick.
method to it. It's not just about who's faster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, having the quickest reflexes because it's like you have like energy shields to contend with, and you have like armor ability in more recent games. You have like armor abilities and stuff like that. That you can't just. It's not just about like oh who can hit the right trigger first and like one shot kill the other guy.
It's about um who can 360 no scope each other with the 50 caliber as fast as possible. Yeah,
Right.
that's when I started. COD has always been that, like, you watch the kill cam and like somebody jumped off of a building, spun around 3 times, and like quick scoped you with a 50 cal, and you're like, I'm not even mad.
I'm not even mad. I'm impressed. That's amazing.
Yeah, the weirdest like flexes. And that was also at the beginning of a lot of people capturing their gameplay and like uploading it onto YouTube. And man, Call of Duty, like quick scoping montages and like knife throwing montages were the shit back in the day, man.
Yeah, back in the day, before game consoles just had like streaming capabilities built into them, and you had to actually like go out and buy a capture card and
A
shit like that.
capture card and oh man. Yeah, not for. And now you just like,
Now you just hit the share button on your PlayStation
I'm pretty
controller.
sure I can like attach Twitch to the PlayStation and like stream through that.
Yeah, you can.
They did it on the PS4, so should be
Yeah,
able to do it with the PS5.
yeah, you can do it on the Xbox as well. Xbox had their own streaming platform for a while called Mixer that crashed and burned because
That's
no one
right.
used it.
And they
Yeah.
excuse me, they stole Ninja from Twitch.
Right.
Hired Ninja
I
for
bar-
exclusivity. Yeah.
I barely know who that is outside of just reading about that deal because they paid him like $1 million or something like that to leave Twitch.
Oh, it was more than that.
Um,
How much
I
was that?
I went on a date years ago with this woman. She was a bit older than me. I think I was. Oh, how old was I? I was maybe 31 or 32. I went on this date with this woman who I think was like 45 or
30
46.
million.
Oh, 30 million. So I went on this date with this woman who was like 10 or 15 years older than I was. Um, and it was the day was perfectly fine, but what was interesting was like she apparently was a mixer partner. Like so she had a like she had a cooking show or something that she would like cook in a bikini or something like that. Um, this is what she was telling me. I never actually like checked out her stream or anything like that. But
The
it's what you
platform for serious gamers.
yeah, she had this cooking show where she would like cook in a bikini or something like that on Mixer, and she was actually like a like paid like mixer. She was actually like paid by Microsoft to do this show.
Amazing.
Yeah, well, only ever went on the one date with her. You ever have the like go on the you ever go on dates where it's like everything seems like it's going perfectly fine, and then you just don't hear from them again? Ever have that happen?
No. No, I have not.
Well, I've had that happen a couple of times. Maybe I'm just clueless, but I don't know. And she even said she was like, "Yeah, let's do this. Let's do this again sometime. Maybe we'll go out like next weekend or something." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. All right, sweet." And then we parted ways, and then I texted her a few days later and never heard back. And I was like, "Oh, okay, all right then."
I have a theory that this is just old boomer Cal talking. I have a theory that a lot of people on dating services now, it's a lot different than like Plenty of Fish or Match or other online dating things, because it's so quick, especially for women to match, or dudes on Grinder, because they're all after the same thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and they have like a floating pool of like potential people that they might want to date or see exclusively or like whatever. And then as soon as somebody that they're kind of interested in or have been dating is like, hey, want to be like partners, then they just kind of like close shop for everyone else that they had gone on a date with or were interested in or whatever. Because reading between the lines, but also watching some things on YouTube explaining it, there's kind of this the dating scene now is like full of like 98% of people are like non-committal, because you can just go back on Tinder and find someone else, right?
Yeah.
And so as a result, it's kind of like people are like dating like way more than they're used to, and they're talking to each other less before the dates. Whereas it used to be a thing where you would talk to somebody a couple weeks or through emails on Plenty of Fish or over Messenger or like whatever, right? MSN Messenger, and get to know each other before
AOL.
Wow, we're going back, people. Before actually meeting them in like person. And if you're like, I kind of don't like this person, like you figure something out in the 2 weeks, and now it's kind of like, hey, it's a match just based on your picture. You can talk for a little bit. But the way that the dating scene is you got to get your foot in the door as soon as possible.
Yeah,
there's 10 other guys waiting to get their foot in the door as soon as possible. So you meet really quickly.
Yeah, call me old fashioned, but like I still like to do the whole like, hey, let's like chat, like let's text and whatnot for like a week or two beforehand, kind of get to know each other, like kind of feel each other out, figure out if we have like things to talk about, like that sort of thing. And I would always be like kind of taken aback when like we would exchange like like a half dozen like short messages with each other, and then the person would be like okay, let's go for drinks tomorrow. And I'm like, how about we hold off a little bit and keep talking. And they're like sometimes they're like, oh, okay. And other times I've been told like uh no, I don't want to waste time, like let's just meet.
And it's that wasting time thing I keep hearing about, and it's like, what do you mean like waste time? And it's the very like quick paced like dating sim, like what, waste time? Like what, every like week that you're like single, you age prematurely, like what?
Right.
And it is like very fast paced, and you get a lot of like younger people and people like even our age like lamenting about like how hard dating is, and standing out, and like meeting somebody that's like, so guys, they don't find girls today, and girls complain about not finding any good like men, and that's a tale as old as time. But that seems to be the case like a lot lately. And it's like, well, maybe talk to people for a couple weeks to figure out if they're like decent. And it's okay if you talk to like multiple people, but like if people just want to bang, they're not going to stick around after they got it. And that's not like slut shaming or any of like that stuff. Like some people are forward with what they want, right? And I think there's a reversey going on here, and that a lot of people think that it's normal to have a physical or a sexual relationship very early, and then if things work out, a relationship like forms,
Right.
and I think that can muck things up, because call me old fashioned as well, but I think that if you date someone, get to know them, and it doesn't matter at what pace, but if you like the person's personality and everything first, and then that leads into being attracted to their personality, their sense of humor, blah, 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 and then it becomes like physical, I think that paves an easier road to be all like, oh, like this person I can date. But it's like weird when somebody's like a friend with benefits for like a month and you don't know their last name, you don't think they're funny, you don't really like them, and that's it's like, why are you hanging out with this person? So yeah, I definitely feel my ancient boomer age whenever I talk about this stuff, because it's like there's a lot of pressure to meet, like you said. It's just like, okay, so you want to meet, and it's like, we've exchanged 8 messages, lady.
Yeah. Well, and see, like to me, it seems like a bit of a logical fallacy, because like when they're like, oh, I don't want to waste time, let's just meet now. And it's like, but if we, chat with each other for like a week or two beforehand and get a sense of like whether we can actually like carry a conversation with one another, and then go on a date, there's much less chance that it's going to end up being a shitty date.
And then you're not wasting
time. And then you're not wasting time. But if you just like exchange like a half dozen messages with someone and are like, okay, let's go for coffee right now, and you're like, and it's like you have a much greater chance of ending up on a shitty date and thus wasting your time. I don't know.
More time and more money. Yeah.
Yeah. To me, it doesn't make any sense, but
and it is different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Than like when like early, like in the 2000s, internet dating.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And I'm not saying it at like a mocking way or like, oh, back in my way day or like whatever, but I think it's like difficult, and I think it teaches a lot of like young people like toxic ways of viewing how a relationship should start. I don't know, this isn't the podcast for that. We talk about beast machines.
Yeah, this the topic got a little
heavy, a little psychological,
a little too serious for the tone of this podcast.
We'll put that on Patreon. Yeah, I'm sure.
No, it's in the episode now. Whatever. Yeah. I should have mentioned though the reason why that I started off the episode being like, I am blue, dabba dee, dabba die, dabba dee, dabba die, is because I dyed my hair blue today.
You know what's funny? When we were making that joke, I was going to say, oh, and audio listeners, it's because his hair is blue. Yeah. And then nope, we just went on like several tangents.
Yeah, as we do. But speaking of tangents, though, this is, as Cal mentioned, this is episode 77 of Too Much Energon. And this week, we are talking about the 21st episode of Beast Machines overall. Sparkwar Part 2, The Search. Originally aired on September 30th, 2000.
Mm-hmm.
We're only 1 week away from getting to my episode of Beast Machines.
Oh, that's right.
Sparkwar Part 3, The Search, baby. I'm ready for it. Anyway,
Part 3, The Siege.
Part 3 is The Siege. Anyway, so episode opens with a bunch of Viacon drones mobilizing and shit. Like, they're fucking everywhere. They're all over planet Megatron now. Mm-hmm. Megatron, it seems like when he made these 2 Viacon generals, like it also increased like mass production of the drones that look just like them. It's one thing I'm gonna say. I don't think I've pointed this out before, but one thing I'm going to say about the Viacon drones, I wish they didn't necessarily look exactly like the generals that lead them. Like, I wish there was like, I wish they looked different.
Do you know what's good tactics? Mixing the different vehicles, which we never freaking see. Like, the way you get them isn't by just attacking them with motorcycle Viacons.
Yeah.
Or just attacking them with helicopter ones. Maybe use some freaking tactics and mix some tanks with helicopters.
Right.
But they don't. They
but no,
split off and do their own like little armies. And it's like, and like you said, why do why do they need to look like the general commanding them?
Yeah. Come up with an original, like you can have all of the same drones look alike, like that's fine, they're drones, but make the generals look different. Make the
Yeah,
generals stand out.
because then they're not special, and they're
Yeah,
supposed to be.
yeah.
Like sometimes when there's a battle going on, I can barely tell which motorcycle Waspinator is.
Well, and indeed, later on in this episode, we'll get there, but there's a moment with Strika where I legit just thought it was one of her like APC drones.
I know exactly what scene you're talking about,
Yeah,
and
I
I
was.
legitimately just thought it was a tank thing.
Yeah, yeah, and then she spoke, and I'm like, oh, that's Strike. Oh, okay.
And then I'm like, why is it just her?
Yeah. Why? Where's the rest of her entourage?
I'll handle this alone. And it's like, what? I thought you were a general. What?
Yeah.
Whatever. So what's the gist of this one here? They're looking for sparks.
Yeah, they're off looking for the max. So the Maximals are like trying to sneak around through this like vast amount of Viacon drones that are just all over the place. And yeah, the Maximals are looking for the sparks, and Black Arachnia laments that, oh man, I really wish we could go into robot mode without being detected. And then Rat Trap is like gives this like very like cheesy like infomercial salesman spiel about, well, act now, today's your lucky day. And that's
When he's selling the little tech devices that he invented, which are supposed to, man, maybe I wasn't paying attention. They're supposed to mask their robot.
Yeah,
form.
they're supposed to make them undetectable to the Viacons in robot form. But so I already have a problem with this because they transform into robot form, which should make them immediately detectable, and then turn these doohickeys on.
I immediately noticed that, and I'm like,
I'm like,
guys, what?
I'm like, turn these things on and then transform, you fucking idiots. Like, come on
Turn your
now.
PlayStation off before you unplug it from its power source, you fucking maniac.
And make sure you don't leave a disc in the machine too.
Also, while we're on the while we're on the subject of like nitpicking them, they very quickly, as they split up and go on their adventure, they very quickly decide that they don't work.
Yeah.
But they were spotted by eye and surveillance camera, not by energy signature.
Right.
So they do work, but they all go, oh man, these things are useless, and rip them off and throw them on the ground. And I'm like,
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Rat Trap.
you stupid idiot, your invention doesn't even work. How dare you put like time and effort into trying to help,
Right.
bitch. And and but the thing is, like, they're just spotted like by drones. Just like, they're not being stealthy. The Maximals just run down the fucking middle of the road
Yeah.
most of the time. So I think they do work in this episode. Everybody just like takes it off and throws it on the ground, assuming that it didn't. I don't know, man.
Right.
And what happens here? They split up and to go and look for the different places where the sparks might be, because Primal had like a vision of some places they might be.
Yeah, they briefly got a the so what happened was is Megatron moved the sparks. And when he did that, they were taken out of their containment units basically. At their containment units somehow shield them from Garry
Being detected.
Garry being able to sense them with his oracle powers. So
Morpheus vision.
so Garry has like a loose idea of where the sparks could be.
Yeah.
And so they break off into 3 teams, like what is it? Rat Trap and Botanica go off together. Garry and Night Scream go off
And
together,
then
and
the other three.
yeah, Cheetor, Silverbolt, and Black Arachnia all go off together.
Immediately, Botanica is like, can I have a different partner? I don't want to team up with. Also, is this Jade's voice actor?
This is Dot. Remember Dot from Reboot?
Oh, right. She sounds very Jade-like in the second half of the episode.
Yeah, she did that.
Did you detect that?
She's got that kind of accent going. Well, in last episode, she had a bit of a almost a bit of like a Russian-esque accent or Eastern European accent. Her accent that she has going is kind of all over the place.
And it almost felt like a little Jamaican.
Yeah.
When she was like, when they're in the VR chamber, the holodeck room that they pleasure palace. I don't know. We'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, hollow chips.
Hollow chips, yeah.
Rat Trap, they find these hollow chips that you can plug into yourself that are basically like VR headsets.
Yeah. Except it kind of just you don't need any gear. You just like stand in front of this wall and it projects things straight into your brain or something.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're robots, right? And these are just chips that they plug into themselves. So functionally, it's a VR headset.
But only when you stand against the wall.
But only when you stand against this one wall in the room. Except they plug one into Strika.
But Strika goes towards the wall.
Oh, right.
We'll get when we get there. I'll point it out. It's weird.
We're kind of jumping all over the place because this isn't a great episode.
It's not, man. So they all split up. They go to look for different places where the Sparks might have been relocated.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. Vehicon generals show up. But only one of those little side stories, they all kind of got their own thing. In the group of three, they all bicker. That's the theme about like Silverbolt being like, I don't trust this kid. And Black Arachnia is like, hey,
yeah.
What's happened?
Yeah, Silverbolt is like, because Cheetor is like, hey, we're gonna go do this. And Silverbolt's like, excuse me, but I don't take orders from a child. And Black Arachnia is like, hey, man, like Cheetor's not a kid anymore. Like a lot's happened since you've been gone.
Yeah, and he's like, I'll believe it when I see it, wench.
But also, like, Cheetor's older than Silverbolt. Because remember, Silverbolt was a stasis pod that crashed. He was a protoform that crashed on planet Energon, and Cheetor was already like a well-established member of the cast, like prior to that,
and presumably a scientist on the mission.
On the Axelon. Yeah, well, yeah, we joked that he was like a college kid on his practicum.
Oh, right, yeah.
On his like science practicum. But yeah, so technically Cheetor older than Silverbolt.
Now the protoforms, have they never?
I've always been kind of nebulous about that. To be honest, it's been kind of nebulous to me.
Like, is somebody put in stasis in a protoform? Do you know what I mean? Like, it never really did. It ever explain that in any?
No, it didn't.
Because he's like kid, and it's like, well, wait a second. Cheetor was around for like 20 episodes before you showed up, buddy.
More than that.
Yeah, like, way more than that.
30 episodes.
Yeah. So it's like, kid? Weird conflict that they force in the episode when it doesn't need it.
Right.
Beast Machines keeps doing that, and I'm like, no, you you don't need that.
Yeah.
But the what is it? He ends up like leading them, and they're like, well, what now, leader? And he's like, I don't know. I'm open to suggestions. And Silverbolt's like, "Puh, some leader, and it's like, fuck off, dude.
Yeah.
And he's even like, as leader of this operation, I'm open to suggestions, and the other two are like, I don't know. So it's like, shut up or nut up, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Botanica and Rat Trap go to this. They go to the Citadel, right?
Yeah.
So they got sent to the Citadel.
And that's where they find the empty shells that were housing all of the sparks that you mentioned.
Yeah. And Rat Trap's like all upset about that, and Botanica is like, "Hey, like at least we know they were here, so we know Gary's onto something."
Yeah.
And
And
Rat
that's
Trap's
when
like,
they get attacked by a mysterious APC drone. Except it's not. It's actually Striker.
it's actually Striker, as we'll find out later on,
because she shit talks them before she opens fire. Again, she's supposed to be a general.
Yeah.
Wouldn't she just shoot them in the back? But instead she's like, hey, Maximals, follow me to my sexy radio voice. And they turn around and go, and jump out of the way of the attack.
Right. Garry and Night Scream are underground, and this is actually the only interesting part of the episode, in my opinion.
Agreed.
So they're underground, and he's like, "Oh, wow!" Like, and they like it's this underground city, and Night Scream's like, "Wow, this is what it like." What's up with this city? Like, it looks like destroyed. And Gary's like, no, not destroyed. It's just abandoned. He's like, welcome to the Autobot capital of Iacon, which I think I remember mentioning in an earlier episode of the podcast, where they I think they name Cybertropolis as the capital of Cybertron. And this was very early in Beast Machines, and I remember being like, wait, hold on. Iacon was the capital of Cybertron.
What are you guys trying to pull?
Yeah, and so we're actually addressing it here. So Garry mentions that when the great upgrade happened from Autobot to Maximal, in which, you know, their upgrade, it resulted in them getting a lot shorter.
Still waiting for why that's
a thing.
Yeah.
I think it does get explained.
Okay.
In the upcoming episodes. The show's starting to like we're starting to run out of episodes, so the show is actually starting to like fill in some blanks now.
Yeah.
They happen across a like giant green hologram of Optimus Prime, and
Night Scream's like, whoa, who's this old dude? And he's like, bitch, that's where I get my namesake.
Basically. But right here, though, I'm like, really? Like, you used to hang out with Soundwave. The guy never brought up Optimus Prime, like, didn't mention him, like, even once.
Pretty big, important, pretty big fucking figure in Transformers history.
I think it's funny,
that's
too.
Like him not knowing who Megatron.
Yeah.
It's like...
I do think it's funny, though, speaking of Soundwave, Chonkwave, we actually, I think it's the battle with Cheetor, Silverbolt, and Black Arachnia, when they're like fighting their Viacon playmates.
Yeah.
You actually see the like destroyed like body of Soundwave. Like he's in
specifically, was that him?
Yeah, it was totally Soundwave. They used that Soundwave model that they've used a couple of times now, and his
they have, yeah.
Yeah, you see his like torso and like with like a leg and one arm attached, and you see like another leg like elsewhere, and I was like, huh, they're battling over the lifeless remains of Soundwave.
Can't you like gather them up and put them away? Because the thing is, let's say they liberate everyone. I would want to. You'd think they'd want to go back to their old bodies.
You would think, yeah.
I mean, he's been in it for millions of years, right?
Yeah, although he had started to let himself go, as we talked about last week. So,
hey man, leave the guy alone. He's 4 million years old.
Maybe it's time for his great upgrade. His great upgrade is like what? Like another fucking Big Mac? Like put the cheeseburger down.
Wow. How dare you? Okay, so for listeners, I am not aligned with Christopher Siege's views on his hot takes, especially about Soundwave. Soundwave is old. Dude's allowed to let himself go a little bit. Who knows how many kids I have no idea. Can Transformers have kids? He's retired.
That's always been kind of a mystery in the fandom, as far as I'm aware. Let the guy
enjoy a burger and a beer now and then. Let him enjoy cyber golf. You know, it's peacetime. Like, why has he got to be fit? Like, what, he needs robot abs now just to be cool.
Well, what I wonder though, like on the subject of Transformers reproduction, is how do Transformers bone? Now we're finally like asking the hard hitting questions here on Too Much Energon. So how would that work? How would boning and reproduction work?
Well, you've seen the movie Avatar, right?
Once, yes.
So it has something to do with putting your hair in someone else's hair. I don't really know. It's complicated.
I speculated a while ago on Reddit, and a bunch of people actually liked this this theory of mine. I speculated that family like lineage, and indeed in this scene, Garry Primal says Optimus Prime is his ancestor. So lineage. I suspect that maybe works like basically when sparks when a transformer dies, the spark goes and rejoins the matrix, or it goes to the inferno or the pit, which is basically their version of hell. I think the matrix takes energy and like some like spiritual like component from different sparks and uses that to create a new spark. I
remember you talking about it even on air, that you could have like be made of parts of like 2 or 3 or 8 sparks.
Yeah. So the matrix like draws like stuff from like a bunch of different sparks and you puts that all together to create a new spark, to create a new transformer.
I dig it.
So in that sense, you could have like, you can actually have like Transformers can have like ancestors and family members.
I dig it. Makes you wonder how they would know.
Maybe they have, I don't know. Maybe
just an innate like knowledge that who their ancestors are. Yeah.
It's like known to them in their spark that they are the
they know deep down in their soul who their daddy is. Yeah. But then it also means that they're like what gender they present as is like something they choose consciously, maybe because there are like
gender is also a weird concept when talking about Transformers.
That's what I mean, but there are like female Transformers that go by like she, her.
Yeah, Black Arachnia.
Right? Black Arachnia, right? RC, Strika, freaking Chrome, Air Chromia. Thank you. Right.
Elita 1. Yeah.
Right. So if they don't actually bone, that means that
Maybe they just when their spark is created, they just know like what gender they identify with more.
or it's a journey. Like I always felt like Soundwave is they because they're very just like neutral and well also um uh it is literally they because they have they have a bunch of cassette mini transformers like in them. So there was a joke that didn't work there, folks. Never mind.
Blaster is definitely a dude though.
Yes. And as we've established, so is the Panther guy,
Ravage.
Ravage. Yeah.
Covert Agent Ravage.
Don't know why he sounds he has that accent, but he does.
Because this is America, damn it.
Yeah. So what happens here? He's like, all right, enough sightseeing. Like, let's move on. And after Primal gives Night Scream the history lesson.
Yeah.
And then
the hologram, the giant, and this hologram of Optimus Prime is fucking massive. Like it towers into the air.
It looks like 20 times as big as Night Scream and Primal.
Yeah.
Like it's huge.
The thing, like, as they're walking away, the hologram actually reaches down and grabs Garry and picks him up, and then, like...
Much to his surprise.
Much to his surprise, and then, like, he fucking, like, vision quests with him. All the while, like, Thrust and his cycle bikes show up.
And miss? Like, Primal's not moving suspended in the air during this, like, mind meld.
Yeah.
And they're just shooting at Night Scream and missing. And I'm like, okay, Thrust, you guys suck. You're either purposely missing now and you're purposely trying to, because Waspinator's not really evil. Right? As we've established on Beast Wars, you know, he's just there for the paycheck.
Yeah.
The benefits.
The friends with benefits.
But Waspinator have no friends.
And Waspinator have no benefits package.
Right?
But yeah, so immediately on this vision, right away I saw where this was going. I'm like, this is definitely like fucking Megatron behind this. I didn't believe for a second that this was like the like core consciousness of Optimus Prime suddenly showing up to talk to Garry.
In a giant like cyberpunk advertisement.
A giant green hologram that was like the exact same color as the like Megahead floating hologram thing.
Oh, I never caught that.
Yeah.
But the gist of it is in this cyberspace, Primal is like, ooh, what? And there's a soundbite where he goes, what? or something, and it reminded me of the ooh.
Well, and so Optimus Prime is also voiced by Garry Chalk in this scene, but Garry Chalk is giving a weird performance. This is another reason why I thought this was kind of sus. Like, he was giving basically his, like, Optimus Primal voice, but he had a very slight accent. Like, he had a tad of a Megatron, like the accent that Megatron puts on.
Kudos to Garry Chalk.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's trying to do a voice that is Megatron trying to do Primal's voice, and I think he does it.
Yeah, it took me a second to figure out why he was doing that too, because I'm like what the hell, like he has this very like slight, almost like posh accent. But he's also trying to sound like Optimus Prime. It's weird. And then I'm like, because it's Megatron, right?
And then he starts laughing.
So what he tells Garry is that Garry still has, because Garry is like, oh, I can't find the sparks because I haven't been able to interface with the Oracle, and Mega Prime tells him that, oh, I am a fragment of your ancestor, I am like a fragment of a representation of like the core consciousness of your ancestor, the great Optimus Prime, and you don't need to worry about trying to like connect to the Oracle because the Oracle is inside you, man. It's in you.
And I'm like, didn't we already establish this?
Yeah.
And then Primal is like, of course. Oh.
I believe I can fly.
And
I
by him
believe I
believing
can
in
touch the
himself,
sky.
by Primal believing in himself, that makes Megatron is pretending to be
Right, yeah.
Optimus Prime. By making Primal believe in himself and channel the Oracle, he's able to extract the programming that the Oracle gave Primal from Primal, right?
So the last time that a few episodes ago when Garry and Cheetor were suspended inside Megahead and Megahead was scanning them, Megahead took most of the like copied, not took, but he copied most of the Oracle from Garry Primal's data tracks. And he goes on this big like spiel about how he's like spent all this time like analyzing it and going over it, but it's like, and he's got it mostly figured out, but like the last little bit of it is like super encrypted. And so
he only completed the hack to 98%.
Yeah. So now by interfacing with Garry again, he's able to like get the rest of the decryption to completely like crack the code of the Oracle and set forth his plan for the Sparks. So that's another thing. That's another thing is now Megatron seems to have a plan for the Sparks. It wasn't that he was just, and I think we had talked about this. It's like, okay, so if he was just trying to eradicate all individual life on Cybertron, why did he keep the Sparks? Why didn't he just destroy them? But now it seems like
now we're starting to find out what his motivation is.
He has some kind of plan for the Sparks.
Up to this point, he's always been like, no, like unwilling to destroy Primal. And it's because he needed the Oracle program from him.
So like a lot of the plot threads in this show are actually starting to come together.
I'll give it that. And remember how we were always like, oh, he wants to keep Primal around, you know, he's just his buddy, he doesn't want to destroy him. No, he just wanted this this info.
Yeah, he just wanted the rest of the decryption for the Oracle, so he could.
Because when he gets it, he's like, "Oh, I have no more use for you, Primal. Goodbye." So it's not a bromance like respect thing. It's he just needed the Oracle data,
right? And so we cut back to this scene is stupid, so I'm gonna like blow through it.
Basically, he finds some VR porn.
He finds some VR porn,
And Botanica like, really, dude? And he starts like filling his pockets, and he's like, oh man, oh, there's this pleasure palace like in India. Oh, you like spicy food. Oh, you got some like you know, South Cybertronian like girls. And he's basically just like filling his like pockets like full of like these VR porn chips. And she's like, dude, we gotta go.
Yeah. But
there's a really cringe scene where he jacks himself in.
Yeah.
Not listening to Botanica, and Stryka finds them.
Yeah, Stryka finds them. And this was a scene I was talking about earlier where I didn't realize that it was Stryka. I just thought it was one of her drones.
I just thought it was a random drone throwing. It's a bad scene because she doesn't say anything and she doesn't mix up her attacks. She just keeps throwing bombs, and Botanica is using a metal plate, I guess that's bomb proof, to block them for like 10 minutes.
When Rat Trap finally comes out of his like VR porn thing, which is basically weird, it's just like flying above like a cityscape or something on Cybertron. It's actually it's pretty underwhelming.
But from a different time. Yeah.
From a different time, but it's pretty underwhelming.
It is.
So he finally comes out of it and says to Botanica something along the lines of like, uh, "Man, we whatever you do, save the VR porn chips." And she's like,
Please,
"Oh."
for the love of God, I have so little to live for.
And she's like, "Oh, for Christ's sake, we have more important things to worry about." But he actually does it for he wants them for a reason because he plugs some of them into Strika to keep her busy.
I
And
don't
at this
understand how that works.
and at
How
this
does that distract her?
and at this point, we know now that it's Strika because she had started shit talking. But at this point in the scene,
Yeah, and she
but
stops and because she's going to kill Botanica before
yeah,
Rat Trap jacks her into
yeah.
the program. Yeah.
And Rat Trap is all like satisfied with himself. He's like, look what I did." And
It's okay. You don't need to tell anyone else. You just you can be impressed.
yeah,
And she kind of grabs him by the Botanica grabs Rat Trap by the scruff of it. I like this scene's cute. A weird, creepy tentacle plant like carrying Rat Trap like a kitten.
yeah,
by the back of his neck, dragging him on the ground. And he's like, go on. You can thank me and my genius later.
But she mentions that like, "Oh, well, this isn't gonna distract Strika for very long." And I'm like, fucking kill the bitch. You have her like distracted in this like
Slit
VR
her
world.
goddamn transformer throat.
Yeah, fucking kill the bitch. Like, just this is your chance to take her out, to take out
They're
a Viacon
Maximals.
general. Yeah, I know they're maximal. That wouldn't be a very maximal thing to do, but
I don't understand how it's distracting her at all. Does it suddenly make you completely forget that you are just fighting somebody? Like, for
I guess.
instance, if you were in the middle of a fight and the other guy had a knife, like he is going to fucking kill you, right? And it's serious
Yeah.
business and your adrenaline's going and you're fearing for your life and you running isn't an option. And I came up behind you and slammed a VR headset on your head. You wouldn't immediately go, ooh, Beat Saber, and completely forget the outside world.
I
Right?
would maybe if it was Fruit Ninja.
Oh, is there a VR Fruit Ninja? There should be.
There must be. I'm sure there is.
There must be. That sounds so much more fun than Beat Saber. Just give yourself like a katana and just go nuts.
I've heard Beat Saber is pretty good, but I've never actually I've never used VR. I've never used a VR headset.
Yeah, my partner has the Oculus Quest 2.
Ooh.
One thing that I always wondered about VR and was hesitant about was how quick the controls would be, how responsive it would be. And
Right.
we're there, man. It's like almost like perfectly synced.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that it's going to be, because like modern, like our modern VR technology has been around for like a decade at this point, and it hasn't really like gained the kind
Well,
of
we're wireless now. Like it's much. There's a lot of games being made in the VR front.
But it hasn't achieved the like mainstream success that that they want it to, and I don't think it ever will. I think it's always going to be a niche product.
That's
I think
fair.
it's always.
And
I think it's
every
always
20
gonna,
years, VR is cool again.
I think it's always going to be a niche product until you can get rid of the headset.
You think so?
Yeah, it'll be a niche product until it becomes like literally like fucking holodeck shit. No, I'm serious. And like they'll get there eventually. Probably not in our lifetimes, but they'll get there.
I feel like it's being successful for the first time in like 40 years. And that there's enough.
Hey now, are you saying the Virtual Boy wasn't
I
a
fucking
success?
knew you were gonna bring up that red and black like eyeball like destroying monstrosity. I knew you were going to bring up Virtual Boy, and it's like 5 games. Yeah. Mario Tennis on the Virtual Boy. What was it? A tennis game? What did I play?
It was a tennis game, yeah.
Right? Okay. The OG Mario Tennis.
Yeah.
Just don't blink and strain your eyes, and then you pull your eyes away 90 seconds later and they're bloodshot, and you're like, that was great.
Anyway, speaking of great or not great, this episode's pretty much wrapped up at this point.
Noble shows up as a Deus Ex Machina.
Oh yeah, Noble.
He shows up and then immediately fucks off.
Yeah, Noble comes out of nowhere and destroys some cycle drones who were like hot on the tail of Night Scream, and I was like, oh, there we go, because I was starting to wonder the other day. I'm like, has the whole Noble and Savage thing, like, has that been resolved yet?
Is he out there?
Yeah,
what's it like
'cause-
for him to be free and not
Yeah.
have memories? And
Yeah,
then he
'cause-
shows up as a chonk dragon.
Yeah.
Shoots some thrust bots.
Yeah.
Changes into a werewolf and then chases them down. But then they just leave. They
Yeah.
don't try to talk to him. They don't. So he's in it for like 15 seconds, and I'm like, why?
But
Where?
like I said,
How?
I had been wondering if all of that had been resolved, because I couldn't remember, and apparently not. So hopefully we
Nope.
get some resolution to that story at
Definitely
some point.
will. We'll get resolution for everything.
No, I think we will, because the show is already like as I was mentioning, is starting to actually like tie up loose ends, and
I've
actually-
noticed that this whole thing is kind of like written to tell larger stories and wrap things up, rather than with Beast Wars, with like getting like freelance writers for
yeah.
different episodes. So I look forward for things to be wrapped up.
Yeah. Speaking of wrapping things up, the episode ends with
the
Garry.
reveal.
Yeah, the reveal that so Megatron thought that he had pulled the wool over Gary's eyes, but it turns
I
out
tricked you, Garry.
that Garry double dog dared and triple sow cowed and quadruple axled.
Quadruple axled. That's Transformers on ice.
Yeah.
It writes itself.
I give your deception a 9.6, Primal. Yes.
You got me. So what's the thing? He's like, while he was copying the data of the Oracle from my mind, I was grabbing things from his mind, and I know where all the sparks are stored, but we have to act fast, like real fast.
And Black Arachne is like, wait, you did what? And Gary's like, yeah, I know. I gave him the Oracle. It was fucking stupid, but damn it, I needed to find out where those sparks were. So desperate times, desperate measures.
And they're like, well, where are they?
Where are they? And the camera like pans over to fucking Megahead in the sky, and I'm like, where the fuck else would they be?
Thank you. Okay. I was like, where? Oh no, they were moved. I wonder what place could be more secure than the Citadel. Maybe inside of my giant head.
Yeah.
Of course they're in there. So if they had just guessed, they would have been right.
Yeah.
But instead, he gave up something potentially disastrous information to find out where they were. And I'm like, time was on your side, Maximals. And now it's not.
Yeah, because Megatron wouldn't have been able to, whatever his plan is for the sparks, he needed the rest of the Oracle's decryption in order to put it into effect.
So time was on the Maximal side. They had time to look. So why did they act like they were running? They weren't running out of time. Whereas Mega Megatron was moving, Megahead was moving them because he realized they were looking for them and he was running out of time.
Right.
And so, like, I think Primal was bullshitting
Mm.
when he was like, "Oh, actually, I purposely let him do that because I wanted to find out where the sparks were." Fuck no, because now all the cards, sorry, half of the cards were in the Maximals' hands,
Yeah.
and now all the cards are in Megahead's head. Like they have no cards to play.
Yeah.
So why are they acting like they do? I weird. Okay, Primal, whatever you say.
Because Megatron may have a legitimate version of Cards Against Humanity, but we have printed out cards from the internet that are just as good.
We have crabs adjust humidity.
Ah, yes, there we go.
Real game.
A real game, yeah.
It's basically just Cards Against Humanity.
It was weirdly funnier.
It was, yeah.
It was funny. It was
The
funnier.
first time
and it
I
was
found
less...
out that existed, I played with you.
Yeah, we played it at the Board Game Cafe in Victoria.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funnier. It was less mean-spirited.
That's what I found too. Less just poo penis jokes
Yeah.
too. Yeah, funnier, less. I know what you mean by like mean spirited. Yeah.
Yeah.
Less
Anyway,
edgy, which just comes across as cringy when you're in your 30s. Edgy isn't cool anymore when you're out of your 20s.
Really. And apparently, it came out a little while ago that apparently the work environment at the Cards Against Humanity people is quite toxic, and I think someone involved in high up there got like Me Too'd, and I'm like, none of that surprises me.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Anyway, that's the end of the episode. To be continued, I guess.
Yeah.
I
guess we'll find out on part 3. The Siege.
Next week, Siege is going to Megahead, folks. Anyway, that was the 21st episode of Beast Machines. Sparkwar Part 2. The
Part
Search.
2.
Here on Too Much Energon, we have a rating system. It ranges from not enough Energon to a sufficient amount of Energon to too much Energon. It's basically bad, okay, good. Cal, what are you giving this episode of Beast Machines?
I give this episode of Beast Machines not enough Energon.
No.
It's just the only interesting thing is dumb, like you said. You immediately saw through it.
Yeah.
I didn't see through it, but it would be more interesting if it actually was just like a digital kind of like, but I guess that wouldn't make sense. I don't know. The rat trap hoarding porn was weird. Like you said, it's starting to wrap things up, which is nice, but the episode's not good.
No, it's not. I'm giving this a not enough Energon. The stuff with Silverbolt and she being like, "I'm not following you, you fucking child." I'm like, that was like really, that felt really forced.
And I understand this version of Silverbolt is edgy. Fuck off, dude. You were never rude to Cheetor back on Beast Wars.
Well, I mean, he's changed, but like I don't get why he suddenly, and because like he's been a part of the team for several episodes now. I don't get why he suddenly is like, "Oh, I'm not listening to a child." And it's like, you've been on this guy's team for like what, like 4 episodes now at this point? What's
I guess
up, man?
that's the Jetstorm rubbing off.
Maybe.
Because
I don't know.
Jetstorm hated. I don't know, man.
On the upside, Night Scream wasn't really insufferable again for the second week in a row, so that That's a win. The only thing I liked about the episode was I liked getting to visit Iacon and getting a little bit of connection to
As drab
Transformers
as it
lore.
and unimaginative and
Yeah,
dark as it was, like the lighting, it's just
yeah.
dark and you don't see shit. But that's my summary for Beast Machines. It's dark and you can't see shit. Um,
It actually, I watched it on DVD on my 4K Blu-ray player that on my 4K TV. I'm not. This isn't me like flexing or anything. But I actually have a point. Uh, there's actually a point to me mentioning this.
my
Um,
blacks are true blacks. Things don't look that dark to me.
well, my 4K Blu-ray player it upreses the DVD to 4K. It actually does a pretty good job. I was watching
Okay,
reboot
okay.
DVDs the other day with Lady Glitch. Um, and that show actually also looks pretty good, like upres to 4K. So my Blu-ray player does a pretty good job upresing. It also forces Dolby Vision onto discs that don't originally support it. And Dolby Vision makes colors a lot more vivid. It makes uh, blacks blacker, etc., etc. So, like I said, I wasn't trying to flex about like the technology that I have. The point is Beast Machines is actually quite. It looks a hell of a lot better if I watch my DVD than if I'm
Hmm,
just watching it on Tubi.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, this was a boring episode. This was an episode where I actually like paused twice to see how much time was left because I was just not into it.
The first time I paused, it was halfway through, and I'm like, half of the episode's over already? Nothing's happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Overall,
basically, this was a filler episode that's trying to string things together, but it doesn't. And it just comes to the conclusion that they have to attack Megahead. But
yeah.
like Siege said, listeners, like, I mean, duh.
Yeah, like where the fuck else would the Sparks be at this point? They'd be inside Megahead. Like it seems so obvious. Anyway, this is a bunk episode, and it's kind of disappointing because last week's episode I think was my favorite episode of season 2 so far. I know you and Lady Glitch, who guest hosted, were a little less enthusiastic about it as I was, but
These machines is a yo-yo. It's
I gave that episode a too much Energon, and this week the episode that follows it is not enough Energon. So because I liked last week's episode so much, this episode was all that more disappointing because it was following up a great episode.
the trick is to have no expectations. No.
That is my motto in life, or lowered expectations. The power of positivity through lowered expectations.
If you have no expectations, then you can never be disappointed.
Yep. Anyway, yeah, that about
That's
does
us,
it.
folks.
That about does it, folks. Best way to support the show, go to patreon.com/lasercomb, LAZORCOMB. $5 and up tier, you get hours each and every week of bonus preamble audio of us kind of shooting the shit before we start recording the shows proper. You also get a monthly-ish commentary track. There are currently 7 of those out now. And you get a show that doesn't really have a regular schedule, but it's called What Are You Watching? Where we kind of just talk about newer stuff that we're currently watching. At the $10 tier, you get our news and current events program, Lasercomb Tonight. You also get to pick a show for us to review a random episode of on our podcast called the Lasercomb Podcast. We've done several Patreon sponsored shows of that podcast so far, and it's been a wild and fun ride. So go and check that out. Patreon.com/lasercomb, or you can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/lasercomb, or on Twitter, you can follow the show proper at Too Much Energon, or you can follow me at Lasercomb. Cal, they can follow you at
At NeoCal, NEO_KAL.
very weirdly enough, I have lost 34 Twitter followers in the past week, and I don't know why. It's
But you, but
I
what
would
spicy thing did you put? Wait, no, you. It's actually been really mild. There's
Yeah.
been less spice. Yeah, there's barely been any spice.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I've lost 34 Twitter followers in the past week, and I'm like, oh,
It's what if it's like 3 or 4 because people are like, oh, he doesn't post enough, or oh, I only follow him for Transformers stuff and he posts too many selfies. But 34? 34 is like, you got a hot take on abortion. You decide to share it with the world.
yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea what it was. Like it doesn't seem to be motivated by anything I tweeted. Yeah, it's weird. Anyway, yeah.
That's like 75% of my Twitter followers. I also don't follow a lot of people, and there's a lot of the more people you follow, the more they can follow back and interactivity. And I'm like kind of low key. I post the odd meme and photo of deer now and then.
Yeah.
That's my most interacted with tweet. The picture of deer using a crosswalk.
Wow.
Well, besides one particular thing that I accidentally stole.
Yeah, besides the meme that you ripped off from someone
Stole and claimed as my intellectual property.
because you're a filthy cunt, according to one guy.
A filthy thieving.
Oh, a filthy thieving cunt.
Let us not forget the most important descriptor there.
I think we talked about it on the show.
We have, yeah.
Yeah. So
And I gained like a few followers from that weird Twitter drama.
We'll be
That's
back
enough for me, folks.
we'll be back next week with Sparkwar Part 3, The Siege. Episode of Too
And
Much
you know what?
Energon.
I feel like this is going to be hype.
I hope it is. I really hope. But like I said last week, I'm like, watch it end up being like the worst episode of the series.
No.
No, because I think we just watched it this week. Yes.
So it sounds like you haven't watched these coming episodes in like years.
Yeah, I watched through Beast Machines once in with my roommate at the time in 2008.
Okay, so we're both going into this.
I watched a torrent that I downloaded on my 13-inch MacBook that I bought for school. And
high
so
quality stuff.
and so there was me and my roommate just like sitting on our living room floor, like staring in 2008, staring at my like 13-inch like MacBook, watching Beast Machines.
As one did
drinking.
in 2008.
and drinking like rum and coke. Yeah, anyway, that'll be next week, episode 78 of Too Much Energon. Keep an eye out for that. And till then, I've been one of your hosts, The Siege.
I'm your other host, NeoCal.
And until next time, I am transformed.
I am Spartacus.
Sure.
So long, folks.
Bye-bye.
Beast Machine.